Pre-redraw Empty Void is presented as a qualitatively superior threat within the narrative. He's explicitly framed by Blast as a threat greater than Garou. Some might argue that since Blast never directly fought Cosmic Garou in that timeline, the statement doesn't hold weight. But that's a non sequitur. The line functions more like narrator-style framing for the reader, rather than a character's limited perspective. Empty Void even absorbed Garou's cosmic powers and outright called him a failed creation. The purpose here is clear: to set the audience's expectation of his threat level. And in OPM, hype statements like these consistently establish the hierarchy of tiers. So the placement stands: pre-retcon Empty Void is positioned above Cosmic Garou in ability. From there, the text leans hard into the sword statements. Blast describes Empty Void's blades as bearing the power of God. But more importantly for scaling, he explicitly says the swords bypass distance, size, and energy, and can cut through space itself, and it transcends dimensions. Each clause carries mechanical implications. If a strike makes distance irrelevant, its travel is instantaneous, no separation needed. If it ignores size, then the cut is scale independent. Whether the target is an object, a region of space, or an entire continuum, the effect doesn't dilute. If it bypasses energy, then it circumvents the normal cost of destroying or negating matter and spacetime at cosmic levels. And cutting space itself is not flavor text. It signals operation on the structure of the manifold, rather than just slicing objects inside it. Put together, these statements justify classing the sword's baseline operation above ordinary universal constraints, comfortably in 4D plus territory. Because the blade enforces rules over spacetime rather than just dumping more raw power into it. But Empty Void isn't dependent on the blade to reach higher order feats. We see him manipulate spacetime directly, pulling the fabric like cloth with his bare hands. He also observes branching realities beyond a single timeline. These sequences demonstrate physical contact with the structure of reality, rather than projection-only hacks, which safely upscales his body into 4D plus interaction. He's shown affecting the continuum itself, not just objects within it. Durability follows the same logic. While positioned on a higher plane, where time, distance, and physics don't apply, Saitama drags Empty Void back down into Earth's frame. Relative to baseline spacetime, that's an infinite speed translation. A shift from outside causal distance into a local frame, in zero perceivable transit. Despite this violent re-entry, where speed, distance, and energy don't even map cleanly, Empty Void takes no damage. The inference is clear: his durability must be evaluated above conventional models. He tanks cross-realm transitions that break the very assumptions those models rely on. At minimum, that supports 4D plus durability. We also get a direct demonstration of spacetime manipulation mid-battle with Blast. To neutralize Blast's attack, Empty Void literally grabs and pulls space, bending the geometry to deflect it. That's not a barrier. That's not a field. His body is directly interfacing with the spacetime substrate. This matches the earlier cloth pull scene, reinforcing the 4D plus physicality claim. He can distort spacetime manually in combat, not just through external weapons. On mobility and domain access, Empty Void opens subspace, hyperspace gates, to move beyond ordinary 4D causality. He enters the many worlds regime, an informational layer where possible timelines manifest as bubbles, observable simultaneously. In that context, cause and effect no longer bind in sequence. You see concurrent alternatives, rather than a single ordered history. This is the pivot point from high 4D interaction into 5D operation. He steps outside timeline causality, navigating possibility space directly. Once inside MWI, there's an inheritance effect. Empty Void and his blades don't just visit the domain, they adopt its properties. This resolves why the swords are 4D plus by statement in ordinary space, yet escalate to 5D under MWI conditions. To qualify as 5D, you need more than cutting space. You need freedom from causality across timelines. And in MWI, that condition is satisfied. The sword's action is no longer tied to sequential locality, which enables a measurable strike speed, operating across timelines rather than along one ordered world line. That validates the phrase, transcends dimensions, in a literal sense, not a metaphorical one. Taken together, this gives a coherent scale. The sword functions above universal constraints, ignoring distance, size, and energy, and cutting space itself, so it sits at 4D plus baseline. Empty Void's body manipulates spacetime directly, and he withstands cross-plane reentry with no harm, supporting 4D plus durability. His gatework into subspace grants access to MWI, where all timelines exist at once. Inside that regime, both he and the sword inherit 5D properties: causality bypass, multi-timeline presence, and immeasurable speeds. Now, 2 clarifications. First, Blast manhandling Empty Void in earlier hand-to-hand doesn't contradict this. Those were before Empty Void fully leaned on his cross-causal toolkit. Second, placing Empty Void above Cosmic Garu doesn't imply parity with Saotama. The series makes this separation explicit. Saotama treats cross-dimensional tricks as mere nuisances, dragging Empty Void down with casual dominance. Final placement. Pre-retcon Empty Void operates in the high multiversal plus to low complex multiversal range when leveraging MWI access, with baseline 4D plus interaction and durability even outside that state. His blades, by statement and by feats, ignore distance, size, and energy, cutting space itself. Once MWI properties are inherited, they become causality-breaking instruments with immeasurable strike speed. Empty Void's physicality sits at 4D plus by default, rising to 5D in MWI contexts. Narratively, he's presented above Cosmic Garu pre-retcon, still below Saotama, and short of God himself, the strongest villain depiction in that era of OPM. This is the cleanest and most consistent reading of the text, without special pleading. A tight, end-to-end scaling for pre-retcon Empty Void.